Alexa, play Glory, Georgia.
Sure. University of Georgia, Glory, the EA Sports College Football Marching Band from Spotify.
Go Dogs. I think I think you guys know what we have to talk about to start this game. Start this video. I think you guys know. If it wasn't already obvious. Um Go Dogs. I actually have four words. Go Dogs Sick 'em. And then a few sounds after that. Hoo, 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 hoo. That's all. So yeah, let's talk about Georgia, Texas. And Georgia did not just win this game; they dominated this game. It looked close at the end, but Georgia won this game decisively, despite three turnovers, despite Carson Beck looking below average, despite horrendous officiating that I'm gonna get to in a second, and despite Texas having home field advantage. Georgia was good enough to win this game, playing what I don't even think was close to the level of their potential. But we saw things from Georgia that we had not seen thus far. The defense clicked, the running game clicked, and they had not up to this point. The matchups that I thought favored Texas did not pan out that way. Georgia's rushing woes and Texas's defense that had been able to stop every other team's run game. I thought Georgia would not be able to be successful on the ground here. But Etienne woke up and probably was the most important player on this entire team. Defensively, Georgia looked vulnerable all season, but not in this game. They set up and punched Texas in the mouth. They made Texas' explosive offense look not so explosive. The Heisman contending quarterback that Texas has got benched for a portion of this game. The highly touted offensive line that Texas had that was able to lean on other teams was just got leaned on by our defensive line, and they handled them really. Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning were both under pressure consistently. 7 sacks, 10 tackles for losses, 4 turnovers, and this was just vintage Georgia defense. Texas had no answers, and in fact, the only 2 scores Texas got this whole game were off of controversial officiating calls, and I was just off base on this game completely. And I am so happy that I was. I said Georgia would have to play their best game to win this one, but they really didn't. I pointed out in my prediction video that it was possible that Texas's schedule up to this point had been not very impressive, and maybe that they had weaknesses that had not been exposed up to this point, and Georgia could be the team to do it. And they really did. I still think Texas is an excellent team, but I don't think that most teams are going to be able to do what Georgia was able to do against Texas. I don't think like Texas is fraudulent or anything, but they obviously aren't indestructible either. As for Georgia, I am thrilled that we won. Obviously, we probably are now the front runner to win it all, and there's still a lot of cleanup though. Georgia can be a whole lot better than they were. If defense can maintain the quality of play and the run game can keep getting better, we absolutely should be able to compete for a national championship, but that offense has to do some work. Carson Beck looked very average in this game, if not even worse than average, and 3 interceptions, just unacceptable, and most of Georgia's scoring drives came off of a short field, courtesy of that defense that we had. So I'm not going from 0 to 100 on Georgia. There's still a lot of football left to play, and there are plenty of great teams on our schedule that could definitely trip us up. But if Georgia maximizes their potential, I don't think there's a team on our schedule that beats this team, or even a team in college football that can beat this team if we can maximize our potential. Time will only tell, though, if we can do that. But we have to talk about officiating in this game. And this is an interesting one because normally I talk about officiating costing a team the game, but that isn't really the case here. So Georgia did what most great teams do and play good enough to where officiating does not decide a game. They eliminated the possibility for officiating to decide a game. There were so many terrible calls, but if you watch this game, you know the exact talking point I'm going to go over first here. The officials called a penalty on a play. Was it the right call? No. I don't think it was, but it was called in the field, defensive pass interference, wiping an interception off the board for Texas. And it's not a targeting call or a holding call that is reviewable. This is not a reviewable call. The last chance that officiating has to change the call is supposed to be before they announce it over the PA system. But once the flag had been called and enforced, it is against the rules to change the ruling that was made. But Texas did not like the call. The fans didn't, at least. They threw trash and bottles on the field as the play got replayed on the Jumbotron. And after like 5 minutes, the refs got together and decided to overturn the penalty on the field. I've never seen anything like it. Officiating cannot do that. I mean, they did, but they're not supposed to. I've never seen the refs bend and break rules so blatantly before. And I think it's set a precedent that sports fans can get what they want if they just throw trash on the field and overturn calls. Even the SC office wrote a statement and put it out about this specific call because they couldn't even defend it. And Texas scored a touchdown off of that drive, and it didn't stop there or even start there, which I'll talk about in a second. But after that play, I think the refs just got scared of the Texas fans because they continue to make terrible call after terrible call against Georgia all night. Etienne had a run that went for a first down. They called it short. The review clearly showed him ahead of the line to gain, but nope, they still called it short. The first down would have iced the game. But instead, Georgia couldn't convert on the fourth down and gave Texas another shot. They didn't end up winning the game, but they had a shot there. There was another run by Etienne that was very clearly crossed the goal line for a touchdown, but officials marked him short again, even though review showed him over the line by a mile. Luckily, Georgia made the touchdown on their fourth down attempt, but still just a crazy call. And there was a Georgia player that was ejected for targeting that I really didn't think was targeting at all. And that first touchdown that Texas got was also off the back of a questionable officiating call because they called defensive pass interference on a play that was clearly not defensive pass interference. And that set them on the goal line after a third down stop where they scored. Something has to be done about officiating in the sport for the integrity of the sport because there's just no standardization of this officiating, and there has to be something because stuff like this happens every single week. I don't think I've ever seen worse officiating in any sport than I've seen this year in college football. And it's not the only game that I'm going to be talking about that it was affected by the refs either, and I'm going to get to those other ones later. But for now, I got to move on to the next game, Alabama at Tennessee. And Alabama is a 2-loss team, and it's not even the end of October yet. This was a massive game that could have very well been a playoff elimination game. I mean, with the 12-team playoff, we don't really know for sure, but a lot would have to go right for Alabama at this point for them to make the playoffs. They no longer really control their own destiny, and I really doubt that they're going to win out from here on. I do think there's maybe 1 or 2 more losses left on their schedule. And ever since the second half of the Georgia game, Alabama's weaknesses were exposed, and they've really not been the same since. What I said about Alabama in the past few weeks remains true, so I don't really want to harp on them too much, but their defense, especially the secondary, is just really bad. And Jalen Milroe does have his moments, but when you take away the ground game, he just crumbles. And that team is just so undisciplined, it's ridiculous. I still can't believe Georgia lost to this Alabama team. They looked worse every week, and they went to Rocky Top and lost again. This Tennessee team has a lot of vulnerabilities and weaknesses right now, but the potential is absolutely there for them to compete for a national championship. If Nico Iamaleava can stop overthrowing receivers and play to his full potential, this could be the most dangerous team in the country because let me tell you, that defense is really, really good. No matter the quality of opponent, they have played really, really good on that side of the ball. Milroe had 11 yards on the ground total, which is insane because we know how good Milroe is at running the ball. And offensively, Tennessee has had some really great receivers and incredible potential on the ground. They just need to maximize that potential. Tennessee should have won this game by much more, to be honest with you. They gave Alabama so many opportunities to win this game due to poor execution. Coach Heupel coached an incredible game, and I think that we will see Tennessee get better and better every single week. And now to the next game. Miami at Louisville, and I told you in my prediction video that I think Louisville is the better team, but I would not be surprised if the refs hand them another win here, and I feel like that is kind of what happened. Now, this was far less egregious than the last two bad calls that gave them the last two games, but there was a fumble that ended up being called an incomplete pass after review, and after this game and the others this year, I'm convinced that we threw away the whole indisputable evidence thing because I have seen so many plays that should have stuck with the call on the field because of lack of evidence get overturned anyways. Someone needs to define what constitutes as indisputable evidence, and every single week with Miami, I watch them get credited for games that they do not deserve, and my jaw is just left on the floor because these are all one-score games decided by the refs making bad calls. And again, this one I could have at least believed was just an accidental bad call, but after the last 2 weeks, it's hard to give benefit of the doubt here. Miami is not a top 25, yet they keep getting praised like they are one. Yes, Cam Ward is great. Yes, Xavier Restrepo is incredible, but that defense is so vulnerable to explosive plays. Just about anyone can score a ton of points on them unless you're Florida State, who's going to end up getting body bagged by them this weekend. And to me, Miami reminds me a lot of Colorado. They have the same profile almost, and you may call me crazy for that, but that's just how I see Miami. They have two great players, some stars on the team, but overall they're not that great. I mean, the defense is really, really shaky for both teams, and if it weren't for officiating, the rest of the country would feel the same way about Miami. I feel like I get the criticism for Miami not being in my top 25, and then I ask about the officiating, and they agree that if the officials made the right calls in three key moments, Miami would have lost all three games. So when I'm ranking teams based on quality and not merit, why would I reward that type of performance? In a fair game, they have three losses to Cal, Virginia Tech, and Louisville. That does not merit a top 25 spot for me. And Louisville, I don't really have much to say. Offense looked great, but defense was getting torn apart by Cam Ward and Restrepo. So you should have played a good enough game to where the refs weren't a factor, and you didn't. So that's all I can say about them. Next, Nebraska and Indiana. Are y'all ready to take Indiana seriously now? 56-7 against Nebraska. I mean, you may think they played a cupcake game here, but no, they played Nebraska. Are you kidding me? I mean, I've been high on Indiana ever since the preseason, but every single week they proved to me that I've not been high enough on them every single week. I picked them to win this game. I picked them to cover in this game, but I absolutely did not expect them to win by 100. I told y'all Indiana's defense was great, and against the struggling Nebraska offense that just spelled disaster. What's more disastrous about this game and impressive was how Indiana made Nebraska's defense look like Kent State. Nebraska's defense is no joke, but Indiana didn't care. I mean, this Nebraska defense has won them several games. Indiana scored a ton on them anyways. Indiana's quarterback did get injured in this game, though, and I hope that doesn't affect them too much because I may pick a fully healthy Indiana team when they pull up to Columbus, Ohio to face Ohio State. They're that good this year. This is Coach Ignati's first year coaching for the Hoosiers, and they are 7-0. The same team that was the last in the Big Ten last year, undefeated. And they look really good doing it. And they're not close games. I mean, they have dominated every single game that they have been in. And I thought Nebraska would be their big test, but to say that they passed this test with flying colors would be the biggest understatement of the century. Nebraska couldn't do a single thing right in this game. Quarterback threw 3 interceptions. They ran for less than 80 yards. Their defense couldn't stop a thing. Huge congrats to Indiana here. Hopefully they continue to impress because what a great story they have going right now. Them and a few other teams like Vanderbilt, Navy, Army, Iowa State, just some, BYU, just some really, smaller teams that most people don't expect much out of are performing really, really well this year, and I'm loving to see that. Next, I have LSU at Arkansas, and speaking of test games, LSU passed theirs with flying colors too. Many people, myself included, kind of wrote off LSU after their early season performances, but they are quietly turning into one of the best teams in the SEC, and this game opened my eyes to that a little bit. LSU's defense turned around incredibly. Their defense looks so much better than they were last year, and up to this point, they had struggled running the ball, but it looks like they have at least somewhat figured that out. Arkansas is not a bad team either. They beat Tennessee and have been close in all their losses this year, and They've been one of the best rushing offenses in the country with an incredible running back and a very mobile quarterback, but LSU held them to 38 yards rushing the ball. One of Arkansas's biggest weaknesses this season has been turnovers and inconsistency, and, well, they had 3 turnovers in this game to LSU's none. And Garrett Nussmeier looked pretty dang good in this game. The passing game was definitely there. The development of the run game and the improvement of the defense is what makes this team look so dangerous, though, going forward. They look better and better every single week in my eyes, and they have no conference losses. This is a game where the situational aspects did not favor them, but they went into Arkansas and handled their business anyways. As for Arkansas, what is there really to say? Their offense couldn't do the one thing that they are best at, and they were unable to secure the ball. As for the games that I didn't preview in my last video, I do want to talk about those briefly because there was some big things happening. Iowa State and BYU remain undefeated. Both of them played in really, really close games this weekend, but came out on top. Auburn does what they do best and choke a lead because they want to play conservatively. Really got to question the coaching there from Hugh Freeze. Oklahoma, still terrible. South Carolina dropped a ton on them. Florida actually dominated Kentucky, which was surprising. Still unsure what to make of that. They may be heating up at the right time here. And the defending national champions lost another one to Illinois. That offense is so bad at Michigan, I don't even know what to say. Clemson still looks like a top 10 team, making light work of Virginia. Colorado passed their win total from last year, beating up on Arizona. Mississippi State played a really close one with A&M. Definitely seeing a lot of improvement out of Mississippi State despite the losses they have. Kansas State obliterated West Virginia. Very impressive, actually. And Virginia Tech did the same to Boston College, and I told y'all that Bill O'Brien was not the coach he's cracked up to be. And that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. And if you want to see some more of my predictions and my top 25 rankings, please go to my socials as A_Rock321 at X and Threads. But that's all for now, y'all. I really appreciate you guys. So, yeah, peace.